Let me tell you something every man needs to hear, but no one ever says out loud. You don't need a six-figure bank account, a six-pack, or a 6-foot frame to make a woman want you. What you need is something far deeper. You see, in a world screaming about money, status, and external validation, most men are chasing illusions. They're grinding for the image. They're becoming men of noise. But women, real women, aren't wired to crave noise. They crave presence. They crave depth. They crave the kind of man who walks into a room and commands attention, not with money, but with mystery. The truth is this: a woman decides in minutes whether you are someone she wants or someone she'll forget. And that decision isn't made by your car, your watch, or your wallet. It's made by how you make her feel. It's made by how safe, seen, and subtly challenged she feels in your presence. But most men, they're too busy performing instead of being. Too loud, too eager, too desperate to prove their worth, when in reality, the quietest men are often the most desired. So if you're tired of chasing and being ignored, if you're done with being nice guy, who always finishes last, then listen closely. Because today, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to make her want you, instantly. And no, you don't need $1 to do it. You want to know what really draws a woman in. It's not the car you drive. It's not the expensive sneakers or the polished Instagram feed. It's something deeper, something that very few men know how to cultivate. I want you to imagine this. She's had a long day. Her mind is racing. She's been judged, underestimated, emotionally drained. The world has tossed her from one expectation to the next. And then she meets you. You, quiet, still, grounded. Not because you're uninterested, but because you're calm, present, peaceful. She doesn't even realize it yet, but her nervous system feels different around you. Safer, quieter. That, my friend, is the beginning of desire. Women aren't just looking for looks. They're scanning for energy. They're unconsciously asking, will I feel safe with him? Will I be heard around him? Or will I have to fight for space, yet again? And most men don't even realize they're failing this test. They talk too much. They try to impress. They interrupt. They're emotionally volatile. They want to fix everything, control everything. And in doing that, they become noise. But you, if you can master silence, if you can become the stillness in a loud world, you will become unforgettable. This isn't about being passive. Don't confuse calm with weakness. A passive man hides behind his silence. A calm man chooses it. He watches, listens, studies. He speaks with intention. When he moves, it's deliberate. That kind of presence, quiet, observant, stable, it sends a signal to a woman's nervous system: you're safe here. And when a woman feels safe, her guard drops. And when her guard drops, her desire rises. She starts to lean in. She'll start finding reasons to stay around you. Not because you're flashy, not because you're loud, but because with you, she can breathe. There's a reason women fall harder for the man who listens more than he speaks. It's because in his silence, they find space for their voice. In his calm, they find contrast to the chaos they're used to. And it's addictive. You become the sanctuary she didn't know she needed. But here's the hard truth: you can't fake calm. You can't perform peace. You must earn it. You have to fight the battles within yourself. You have to silence the urge to prove, to fix, to dominate. You have to become so emotionally grounded that even when she's overwhelmed, you are still. When she's anxious, you don't mirror it. You regulate it. Not by telling her what to do, but by being what she needs: an emotional anchor. A man who doesn't panic. A man who doesn't run. You see, every woman has felt unsafe at some point. Unsafe emotionally. Unsafe physically. Unsafe to be soft. When you become the kind of man who never punishes her emotions, who doesn't mock her feelings, who doesn't turn every vulnerable moment into a power play, she'll trust you in ways you can't buy. She'll open up, slowly at first, then all at once. And once a woman feels emotionally safe, she becomes more feminine, more playful, more passionate. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. This is the power of presence, of becoming the calm in her chaos. So the next time you're sitting across from a woman and she's pouring her thoughts out, don't rush in to fix it. Don't interrupt with advice. Don't joke away her feelings because you're uncomfortable with intensity. Just be there. Let her feel your stillness. Let her feel the peace you've built within yourself. And watch what happens. She won't say it out loud, but she'll feel it in her bones. I want to be near him, not for your looks, not for your money, but because you offer something her soul recognizes, something real, something steady. Become the calm in her chaos, and she'll crave you for reasons she can't even explain. One of the greatest lies we've been sold as men is that we need to prove ourselves to be loved. That we need to earn desire by showcasing status, flashing achievements, or pretending to be something bigger than we are. And so, what do most men do? They step into every interaction with women like it's a performance, a job interview. They try to impress, entertain, dominate. Look how smart I am. Look how successful. Look how funny. But the whole time they're missing the most important truth. Women don't fall for your performance. They fall for your presence. You can see it when a man walks into a room. Some men bring energy that says, "Please notice me." Others walk in with quiet, rooted energy that says, "I'm already enough." And you know who women are drawn to? The second kind. The man who doesn't need the room. The man who doesn't need to explain who he is, because he already knows. That's the man who gets remembered. That's the man who's desired. When you stop trying to prove something to women and start simply being authentic, still whole, you stop triggering her defenses. She's not scanning you for signs of manipulation or ego. She's absorbing your truth. She's seeing the real you. And when you offer that level of raw, unfiltered masculine energy, when your soul speaks before your mouth does, something shifts in her. She relaxes. She listens. She connects. But here's the problem. Most men don't trust their being. They don't believe they're enough unless they're doing something to earn it. So they overcompensate, they brag, they overshare. They act like a character, not a human. And then they wonder why she pulls away, why she doesn't call back, why she doesn't feel that spark. It's not because you weren't cool enough. It's because you weren't real enough. She didn't feel you. She saw the act, not the man behind it. And the reason this matters so deeply is because women are emotionally intuitive creatures. They sense fakeness the way animals sense fear. She might not be able to explain why she's not drawn to you, but deep down, it's because you were trying too hard. Desire doesn't live in the place of performance. It lives in authenticity. And the minute you stop trying to impress her, you become interesting to her. Let that sink in. When you stop trying to be liked, you start being wanted. When you speak slower, move with intention, and stop filling silences with nervous jokes, you create mystery. When you share who you are without trying to convince her you're special, you become special, because real is rare. And in a world of filters, flexes, and followers, your rawness will stand out like fire in the dark. This is not about being perfect. It's not about having all the answers. It's about being unapologetically you, owning your flaws, holding your frame, speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. That's what creates connection. That's what unlocks intimacy. You want to be irresistible. Then stop performing. Stop overcompensating. Stop using women to fix your self-worth. And instead, become. Become a man who is comfortable in his own skin. Become a man who values himself even if she walks away. Because here's the paradox: when you no longer need her validation, you become 10 times more attractive. When you no longer chase attention, it starts to follow you. And if you're wondering how to even begin this shift, it starts with silence, with looking inward instead of outward. It starts with asking yourself, who am I when no one's watching? Who am I when I'm not trying to be liked? That's the man she wants to meet. That's the man the world is dying to see. So the next time you're sitting across from her, fighting the urge to say something witty, to impress her, to win her pause, breathe. Let her see the man who isn't performing. Let her feel the man who's simply being. That's where connection begins. That's where craving starts. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to remember who you are. There's something you need to understand about women, something most men will never truly grasp. A woman's attraction doesn't grow in the obvious. It grows in the unknown. The predictable man, the one who lays all his cards on the table in the first 5 minutes, who answers every question with robotic clarity, who explains himself before he even gets a chance to be misunderstood, that man doesn't spark curiosity. And without curiosity, there is no craving, because craving is born in the mystery. Think about this. When was the last time you truly obsessed over something you completely understood? We don't crave what's obvious. We crave what challenges us, what makes us wonder, what makes us lean in. And women, who are biologically wired for emotional depth and layered intimacy, are especially sensitive to this. The men who make them want to chase, to figure out what's behind that steady look or quiet smile. Those are the men they remember. But you, like most men, have probably been taught to do the opposite, to be transparent, to communicate everything, to always be clear about your feelings from the jump. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about lying or playing games or being emotionally unavailable. No, this is about discipline. Emotional discipline. Knowing when to share and when to simply allow her to experience you. Because when you overshare too soon, you rob her of the very thing her heart longs for, the journey of discovery. A mysterious man doesn't have to hide anything. He just knows that his story has layers, and not every chapter needs to be told on the first date. He lets silence do the heavy lifting. He lets questions linger in the air without rushing to answer them. He's comfortable when she doesn't fully understand him yet. In fact, he knows. That's exactly what keeps her coming back. You see, the feminine spirit thrives on emotion, on the unknown, on the unfolding of something sacred. When you walk in and tell her your entire life story in a desperate attempt to gain her trust, what you're really doing is stripping away the magic. You're telling her, there's nothing else to learn here. And once the chase ends, so does the desire. So how do you become the mystery? You don't need to act cold. You just need to slow down, speak less, observe more. When she asks you something personal, answer with a slight smile and a thoughtful pause. You can be honest without being obvious. You can be available without being predictable. And when she leaves the room, let her leave with questions, not confusion, but wonder. Wondering what you're thinking. Wondering what your story is. Wondering what you didn't say. The mysterious man isn't hard to find. He's hard to forget. And the reason is simple: he lives with intention. He doesn't give himself away easily. Not because he's playing games, but because he values himself too much to put his soul on a silver platter for anyone who hasn't earned it. And that's what makes women want to earn it. You see, when a woman finds a man who doesn't try to oversell himself, she senses depth. She senses that there are parts of him untouched by public opinion or past pain. And that space, that sacred space where he holds back not out of fear, but out of strength, that space becomes the most attractive thing about him. She'll go home and think about you, not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. Not because of what you did, but because of what she felt. That's mystery. That's power. And no luxury car or perfect body can match it. So the next time you sit across from her, remember, don't rush to impress. Let her wonder. Let her reach. Let her try to figure you out, piece by piece. Because the more she chases the meaning behind your silence, the more she'll crave to know your heart, be the mystery she wants to solve, and she'll never stop showing up for the next clue. There's something almost magical about emotional presence. A man who is truly present doesn't just enter the room, he enters her nervous system. He becomes an experience. He leaves behind more than just a memory, he leaves behind a feeling. And that feeling, that's what she will crave when you're gone. Not your face, not your physique, not your words, but the way she felt when you were near her. Most men are obsessed with being seen. They dress up to be seen. They speak up to be seen. They post to be seen. But the man who's remembered, the man she dreams about weeks later, is the man who made her feel, not through manipulation, not through performance, but through embodied energy. You see, we've all been in a room with someone who spoke a lot but said nothing, and we've all met someone who said little but left us haunted. That's what emotional presence does. When you are fully in your body, rooted in the moment, connected to your breath, and looking into her, not at her, something deeper happens. You don't just exchange words, you create tension, emotional intimacy, chemistry. But here's the catch: to make her feel you, you must first feel yourself. You must be connected to your own body, your own emotions, your truth. Because if you're numb inside, disconnected from your own emotional world, no matter what you say or do, she'll feel it. She'll feel the void. She might not know how to explain it, but she'll sense something's missing, and she'll pull back. Not because she's shallow, but because she can't feel you. This is what separates boys from men. Boys chase attention. Men command emotional energy. A woman will sit across from a man and feel safe, curious, even a little unsteady, not because he's trying to make her feel that way, but because his presence is alive. His presence says, I see you. not just as a body, but as a being, a soul. And you don't do this by having the perfect words. You do this by being there, truly there. Put your phone away. Look her in the eye without looking through her. Listen, not just to respond, but to absorb. When she speaks, tune into the feeling behind the words. Match her energy with yours. This isn't performance, it's alignment. It's the kind of connection that bypasses logic and hits her heart directly. Have you ever noticed how a moment of quiet eye contact can be more intimate than an hour-long conversation? That's because in that silence there's nowhere to hide. You're not impressing. You're inviting. You're saying, I'm here, I feel you, and I'm not afraid of what I see. That's vulnerability, and that's power. Most men think being strong means hiding emotion. But a man who can feel without crumbling, who can stand still in the middle of emotional intensity and not flinch, that's the man who becomes unforgettable. Because she doesn't want perfection. She wants real. She wants to know that when her own emotions overflow, yours won't run away. That your groundedness will be the place her chaos finally rests. If you make a woman feel emotionally seen, physically safe, and spiritually connected, all without touching her body, you've already touched her soul. And that kind of touch, that's the one she'll never forget. So if you want to stand out, stop trying to be liked. Start trying to be felt. Ask yourself, what does she feel when I walk into the room? What does she feel when I say nothing? What does she feel when I listen? Because when you can impact her emotional world, when your silence, your gaze, your breath leaves a fingerprint on her heart, she'll never see another man the same way again. She can forget what you said. She can forget what you wore. But she will never forget the man who made her feel deeply, even if it scared her. Make her feel you. And she'll never stop reaching for your energy, no matter how far away you are. Let's talk about the most misunderstood and yet most attractive trait a man can carry, detachment. But not the kind that makes you cold. Not the kind that makes you careless. I'm talking about the kind of detachment that's born from self-respect, from self-anchoring, from an unwavering belief that your worth does not live in her hands, that no matter what happens, you do not crumble. See, most men are operating from a place of lack. They're chasing connection because they believe they are incomplete without it. They walk into dates, conversations, even text exchanges with one subtle, desperate question. Will she like me? And that single question is the death of attraction. Because in that moment, you've handed her the emotional leash. You've made her the prize. And you've abandoned yourself. What a woman feels, often without even realizing it, is when a man is more focused on the outcome than on being. She can sense when he's mentally fast, forwarding to the future, wondering whether this interaction will lead to validation, sex, a relationship, or approval. And the moment she feels that pressure, that neediness, her feminine instincts pull back. Not because she doesn't like you, but because she doesn't trust the foundation beneath you. You've made her responsible for how you feel about yourself. And that, my friend, is never attractive. So how do you shift this? You start by understanding a fundamental truth. You are not trying to get anything from her. You are there to share space, to experience, to enjoy. That's it. Not to win, not to secure, not to convince. You are already enough. You're not there to be chosen. You are there to observe if she is aligned with you. When you detach from the outcome, you show up differently. Your energy changes. You listen more, not because you're trying to score points, but because you're genuinely curious. You aren't trying to impress. You're just expressing. You're not clinging to every response, because your peace doesn't hang on whether she texts back. That's the power of detachment. It frees you, and more than that, it draws her in. Because here's what no one tells you: when you are emotionally needy, women lean in. When you are not seeking, you become the sought after. Why? Because confidence that doesn't beg is rare. A man who's happy alone, fulfilled in himself, and yet present with her. That man is magnetic. She feels safe. She feels honored, not smothered. And she becomes curious. Why doesn't he chase? Why does he seem so calm? What does he know that other men don't? She may even test you. Pull back, say something challenging. Create a moment of tension just to see if you react like the others. Will you get anxious? Will you start proving? Or will you stay rooted in your truth, unaffected by her storm? The man who can stay grounded, who knows that walking away doesn't mean losing himself. It's returning to himself. That man earns her respect. And respect is the doorway to real attraction. This doesn't mean being indifferent. You're allowed to care. You're allowed to want. But you don't need. That's the difference. You desire from abundance, not from desperation. You invite without grasping. You love from fullness, not from starvation. And that kind of love, that kind of masculine energy, it gives a woman space to breathe. And more than that, it makes her crave your stability. So the next time you meet a woman, ask yourself, if she walked away, would I still feel whole? If the answer is no, you've made her your source instead of your companion. Real detachment is knowing that nothing anyone says or does can disturb the foundation you've built within yourself. And ironically, that's the very thing that draws others in. That's what makes a woman think he's different. Because you're not reacting to her, you're responding to life from your center. Detach from the outcome, anchor in self, and you'll find that the right woman isn't something you have to chase. She'll recognize your energy, and she'll want to stay. There is immense power in a man who knows how to speak less. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he understands that true impact doesn't come from volume. It comes from value. And this is where most men go wrong. They believe they need to talk more to be liked, to impress, to keep her interested. But here's the secret: every unnecessary word you speak risks diluting your presence. And every intentional silence adds weight to your words. Think about the men you respect the most, the ones whose opinions you lean into, the ones who walk into a room and don't need to dominate the conversation to command respect. What do they have in common? They are precise. They are intentional. They are rooted. And when they do speak, you listen because you feel them. This is especially true in the context of relationships and attraction. Women are not attracted to noise. They are attracted to energy. And energy is felt more in your stillness than in your chatter. When you speak just enough to be understood and no more. When you say only what needs to be said, something strange happens. She starts leaning in. She starts hanging on your pauses. She begins to wonder what you're thinking instead of drowning in what you're saying. Why does this work? Because silence, when rooted in confidence, creates mystery. It creates tension. It signals depth. Most men fear silence because they associate it with disinterest. But the opposite is true. A man who's silent and present, who listens fully, who doesn't rush to fill every moment with words, radiates emotional control. And emotional control is the foundation of masculine energy. You see, talking excessively is often a nervous habit. It's a way to avoid discomfort. It's an unconscious strategy to gain approval. But the man who can sit in a moment, fully alive, without the need to prove anything, that man is rare. And rarity is irresistible. So the next time you're with a woman, I challenge you, listen more than you speak. When she talks, hear her, not just the words, but the emotion underneath. And when you do respond, speak from your truth, not from your ego. Say what's real, not what you think she wants to hear. Be brief, be clear, be honest, and then stop. Let her sit with your words. Let her feel the weight of your presence. Let your energy continue the conversation in silence, because that's silence. That's where the chemistry grows. That's where the attraction deepens. You'll notice something else too when you speak less. People start respecting what you do say more. Your words carry weight. Your approval feels earned. Your insight feels sacred. You stop being background noise and start becoming the voice she remembers later, when she's lying in bed replaying the conversation. And this isn't just about dating, it's about power. The man who overexplains loses leverage. The man who underexplains wisely gains influence. You don't owe your story to everyone. You don't owe your emotions to every moment. The more selective you are with your voice, the more magnetic your presence becomes. But don't confuse this with being emotionally closed. You can be expressive. You can be vulnerable. But even vulnerability must be delivered with strength. Speak it slowly. Speak it clearly. Let it land. Don't rush it. Don't throw it around casually. Let her feel that when you open your mouth, it's not to fill a void, it's to reveal a truth. And that, right there, is what makes you unforgettable. Speak less. Impact more. Leave her wondering what else is behind your eyes, not rolling hers at your next story. Let your silence speak for you before your words do. Let your presence make the room feel warmer without ever raising your voice. Let her crave the words you haven't said yet, because in those unspoken sentences she'll feel the man you really are. Let me leave you with this. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be the guy with the perfect life, the perfect past, or the perfect words. You just need to be you, the version of you that's been buried under years of fear, approval, seeking, and pretending. Because the truth is, the man she truly craves, he's not the loudest one in the room. He's the one who's still, the one who knows who he is, the one who speaks less but makes every word count, the one who doesn't try to win her, but invites her to feel him, to see him, to trust him. And maybe you've spent years chasing women who never looked back. Maybe you've begged for affection, molded yourself to fit in, or silenced your truth to keep someone who was already halfway out the door. I get it. I really do. We've all been there. But you don't have to keep living that way. From this moment forward, decide that your worth will no longer be determined by someone else's reaction. Decide that the only validation you need is your own. Decide that you will become the kind of man who walks in truth, in peace, in quiet strength. Because when you become that man, she'll feel it. And she'll want you, not for your money, not for your charm, but because you'll be the one man who doesn't need her to want him. And that, my brother, is exactly why she will. If this message hit home for you, don't scroll away like it's just another video. Leave a comment. Let me hear your voice. Like this video if it shook something loose in you. Share it with a man who needs to hear the truth. And if you haven't already, subscribe. This channel is for men who are ready to stop chasing and start becoming. Because you don't need more game. You need more you. And I'm here to walk that journey with you.